name is Rachelle Smith, certified personal fitness trainer, professional speaker, and author. Last time I highlighted the importance of controlling the controllables when it comes to liability issues involving your facility. And I highlighted a few more cases and to give you a better idea and a better understanding of just how this issue of liability can impact your facility and what you can do, once again, to control the controllables. This time, I'd actually like to talk about yet another very important variable and aspect of liability that is so important that I think a lot of folks in leadership positions and facilities can take it for granted. And what I want to do is highlight, as I wrap up this series on liabilities, I wanted to highlight actually a couple of different scenarios. In this particular case, comes from Ehrenberg and Ehrenberg Law Group. They actually highlighted it. They're based out of Florida. They highlight it on their website. So this particular case is a member of a 24-hour fitness facility in Sacramento, California, fell backwards from a moving treadmill and smacked her head against a different exercise machine that the club had placed less than 4 feet behind the treadmill. This violated the treadmill maker's safety specifications, which said that there should be a 6-foot safety zone between the back of the treadmill and other gym equipment. The club member sued, and the club argued that it was protected by the liability waiver that the member had signed. What did my dad say? What's his quote? If you remember, I mentioned it a couple of episodes ago, Fitness Friday, a couple of episodes ago. Liability waivers do not protect facilities from employee incompetence. This is a perfect example of that. But the California Court of Appeal said the case could go to trial. According to the court, 24-Hour Fitness knew it was violating the manufacturer's safety directions when it arranged the exercise machines without providing a proper safety zone, and it did this to squeeze more machines into the facility to make room for more paying customers. The court said this wasn't just carelessness, it could be considered gross negligence and so serious that it voided the liability waiver. So what do you think happened in this case? Of course, the lawsuit happened and the plaintiffs were successful. So what I want to do right now is challenge you gym owners. And again, this is going to be probably much more applicable to your independent franchises, your private gyms, as opposed to your LA Fitness, your Lifetime Fitness, which are corporately owned. And yet again, I'm going to state they've got general counsel, they have experts in-house to analyze their layouts when they're opening a new location, to analyze down to the nitty-gritty, finite details of what can happen, how can we arrange this facility to minimize the risk of liability. So, but if you're an independent franchisee, if you're a private gym, if you're kind of a small mom and pop gym, or even a large mom and pop gym, a large family-owned gym, I challenge you to really take more time and put more thought, if you haven't done so already, to the layout of your gym, your facility. Okay, so even if you were to walk through it right now, what kind of triggers do you have when it comes to potential liability risks? Okay, and if you haven't, they actually have attorneys that specialize in this. You can consult with an attorney who can do a walkthrough and basically kind of tell you, point out some hidden liabilities regarding your layout. You can hire an exercise physiologist who can come in and analyze the flow and the layout. But particularly, you really want to make sure that you are sound from a legal standpoint, because let me tell you, as I told you last time, I analyzed a boatload of cases. And so I've seen all of the different types of ways in which facilities are sued. And I don't want you to be in any of those scenarios, but I'm telling you folks that this layout issue is a huge one, because how your facility is set up, what you have in which section, what you have where. And as this particular case pointed out, okay, there is a safety zone, or also called a safety perimeter, that is required for when these manufacturers are creating these elliptical machines or these treadmills or these squat racks. There are certain perimeters, there are certain standards that need to be upheld and maintained. But as this particular litigant found, this particular defendant really, in this particular case, 24-Hour Fitness found what? They wanted to squeeze more equipment in to have more room and more machines to get more members. So again, profit driven. We talk about this. I'm going to talk about this in future episodes from a business strategy standpoint of how just trying to pack more people into your gym can actually be a hindrance, as this particular case shows. And if you just even Google different facilities, Google different franchises, your major chains, you will see this particular complaint come up over and over again. It's too crowded. The machines are too close together. There's not enough room. So I challenge you. This is a particular treadmill case. Okay? Can a person literally get off your treadmills in your particular facility with ease? Okay? If you've got 4 or 5 of them in a row, okay, is there a significant and sufficient perimeter space in any of these? Can you successfully get off to the side, or can you only get off from the back? All right, so that's something you got to think of, because this is part of what this particular group ran into. So I challenge you, think about your layout. Okay, a best practice is in this particular regarding layouts. Gotta give a shout out to my home gym in Louisiana, Bel Air Fitness, 50,000 square foot facility, and is absolutely, from a layout perspective, is absolutely top notch. If in 22 years of all my gyms, any gym I've ever stepped into, I've got to give it to Bel Air Fitness. It is set up from a layout standpoint, much like military gyms. And again, you've heard me say in that very first episode, military gyms, one of the benefits, one of the biggest assets and benefits of military gyms is that everything is laid out, again, much like the corporate facilities, from a risk management perspective, and they're trying to decrease their liability. So there's a lot of rules, regulations, policies, and procedures of how military gyms are laid out. My gym in Louisiana, Bel Air Fitness, while it's privately owned, it's right down the street from a military base. There's a lot of military members, and from an absolute layout standpoint, I mean, you've got your cardio area. There's nothing else in that cardio area. There's a wide array and space in terms of that space perimeter between each cardio machine. All of the dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, all in the same area. So from a liability standpoint, when you've got folks dragging barbells, dumbbells, and kettlebells to other areas of the gym, you've got to think, because most cases people are not going to, in a perfect world, people would put all their stuff up. But we know, unfortunately, that doesn't happen. But what that does is create liability issues for you when they're strung all over the gym and any type of facility you may have. So I challenge you to think about how your layout is. Okay, your squat racks, are they side by side? Okay, your powerlifting decks, how are things arranged in your facility? How is the flow? Okay, because when you've got things kind of out of order, it's just not going to flow. And also, from a liability standpoint, it can cause a lot of problems. I could highlight a lot more cases involving kind of how this layout and how people, a lot of those slips and falls and people tripping over equipment is a huge liability. So I definitely want to challenge you to come up higher in that area. Secondly, wanted to close this out by highlighting another area of liability, potential liability, and that is in the arena of hiring, personnel, human resources. Again, your smaller independent facilities, your private gyms, your independent franchisees are just going to be an issue for you, more so than corporate folks, which have job descriptions, which have very tight policies and procedures in terms of how things are done from a personnel and hiring standpoint to prevent lawsuits and getting sued and things like that quickly. The Association of Corporate Counsel states there may be practical reasons to hire family and friends. They may be well qualified, and current employees know they put their credibility on the line when recommending someone. Conversely, there are practical reasons to not hire family and friends, particularly the inherent conflict of interest. Additionally, hiring friends can carry legal risks. Not just confined to the hiring context, the risks arise in many other areas of employment, such as assignment, compensation, evaluation, and promotion decisions. So really think about who you hire, how are people promoted, okay, who's given what assignment, because there again, this whole issue of nepotism that we hear so much about, cronyism, and so you definitely don't want to fall into that arena, and it does happen, folks, it does happen. But Jim Collins wrote a fantastic book several years ago called Good to Great, and he highlighted 3 specific points, and I really want to put it in this context of liability and the folks that you're hiring and the personnel decisions that you have. Number 1, start by getting the right people on the bus. So he uses the bus kind of, as a descriptor of a top performing company or organization, in your case, a fitness facility. So you want the right people on the bus or in your organization or at your particular facility. You want the right people, people that are qualified, people that are passionate, people that really, really, really can be role models for other people when it comes to fitness, whatever the case may be. Number two, you want to get the wrong people off the bus, okay? Because again, from a wrong employee, one that's not working out, is a liability, okay? And this just isn't even from a lawsuit standpoint. It's just the liability on your particular facility in terms of somebody with poor morale and low productivity and somebody who's gossiping and sleeping with everybody who comes in the door. I mean, these are issues that happen in facilities every day. So I challenge you to really think about getting the wrong people off the bus. Again, to be fair and balanced, got to highlight my gym in Louisiana, Bel Air Fitness. They actually, it's an interesting situation. I'm going to talk about marketing in a future episode, but Bel Air, my particular gym, it's Bel Air Fitness, and on the other side of the building, it's Bel Air Learning Center. But they're all under the Bel Air marketing or the brand. Don't want to get too much into that. But long story short, the Bel Air Learning Center actually had a couple of lawsuits filed against it for child abuse. Okay, this was a couple of years ago. It was this huge scandal in town. And so, but anyway, and I have great respect for the general manager, the assistant manager. They both have, degrees of Bel Air Fitness. They both have degrees in exercise science and done a tremendous job and do a tremendous job with that particular gym. But the general manager of the gym, Jeff Harper, is also oversees the Bel Air Learning Center. So he was responsible. All of this fell under his watch. And so it was a huge public relations issue. And as I talked about a couple of episodes ago, when it comes to leadership accountability in facilities, regardless of what type of entity or facility it is, you got to be proactive. You got to step up. You got to make decisions. And he did just that, did an excellent job of doing that. And so terminated a couple of employees that were responsible, had to deal with this whole public relations crisis and nightmare, but ultimately made some changes to the policies and procedures to ensure the public and the parents that nothing like this would ever, ever, ever happen again. And so he and his team, and I count the Bel Air Fitness team, survived that particular crisis and that particular debacle. And it's amazing. I mean, they're not hurting for people in the gym. The gym is still thriving, doing well. The same is true for the other side of the building, Bel Air Learning Center. And so that was a case where he had to get the wrong people off the bus. And again, think about who you're hiring, who you have on your team. Are they a good fit? Why are they here? And that's why, again, going back to this what I pointed, hiring family and friends, that can kind of get you in trouble from a liability standpoint of, accountability. And this is just true in any type of case of organization. And that's why corporate America tends to frown on these type of relationships and hiring decisions, because they can be a liability, because there's issues of favoritism and all of that drama that I know you don't want in your facility. So get the right people on the bus, number one. Get the wrong people off your bus. Finally, get the right people in the right seats. Okay? So again, who's qualified for what? Do you have people in roles in which they're not qualified for? All right? Do you have people in roles that they're not passionate about? Okay? Think about who you want and who will be successful in these roles. And again, you can consult with a human resources consultant. There are folks that can help you devise job descriptions, even if you're a small gym or independent franchise. Have hiring. Again, these type of policies and procedures, rules and regulations will protect you from a liability standpoint. But if you don't have anything, how is that, particularly from a hiring standpoint? How can that help you? What issues can you speak to? And so what I want to do is just challenge you. Again, as Jim Collins challenged all of his readers, don't just be good, be great. All right? And you have what it takes to be a fantastic facility. I challenge you to think about your layout. I challenge you to make whatever changes are necessary in regard to your layout, in regard to any particular hiring or personnel decisions. Because at the end of the day, it's all about accountability. And as you heard me say over and over again, and I'll say it till I die, as world-renowned leadership expert John Maxwell said, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so from accountability standpoint, liability standpoint, it all starts and ends with you. So won't you accept my challenge to make sure your facility can be the best that it can be? Thanks so much for your time, and make it a wonderfully fit day.